Thank you for joining another wonderful episode of Success Innovation. Today's episode is called The Civil Engineer Girl. In this episode, I have the great pleasure of talking with Melissa Guevara. She is a very upbeat individual who is pushing the limits and exploring how Instagram will be able to expand her social branding via the Civil Engineer Girl. Learn her path by being a first generation student, going the path of pursuing her personal goals. She does all this while staying humble and being happy. Discover her advice to her younger self if she could go back and spend a few minutes that would make an impact. I had a great conversation with Melissa Guevara. Thank you for joining us. Now let's get started. Welcome back to another wonderful episode of Success Innovation. Thank you so much to the audience, to the viewers, to the listeners for joining me for another wonderful episode. Today I have the great pleasure of hosting Melissa Guevara. She is an assistant design engineer at Dynamic Engineering Consultants, PC. She is pursuing her civil engineering degree and accreditation as a professional engineer. She is currently in Newark, New Jersey. She recently started blogging about being a civil engineer. Welcome, Melissa Guevara to Success Innovation. How are you today?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me in another wonderful episode. Can you kind of tell me a little, I gave a little introduction about who you are, but can you kind of go and tell us brief summary of your early stages, where you were born, how you actually grew up, elementary school, middle school, and high school, and when did you discover you wanted to pursue engineering as a career?
Okay. So I am a first generation student, and I decided to do civil engineering midway through college. Growing up, I've always liked math and science and animals. So it was only natural, like when I started college, to pursue pre-vet, and that's what I was doing at college first at Rutgers University. But then somehow along the way, I found civil engineering, and that sparked an interest in me that I didn't think I would keep on pursuing, but I stuck with it, and thankfully I really liked it. I really liked what it stood for. I liked how there were so many paths to choose from, which was good for me because I didn't really know what I wanted to do as a career. So yeah, my college journey was pretty rough. I didn't really know what I was doing. Like I said, I was a first generation student. So I didn't really have a lot of guidance. I didn't really have somebody, holding my hand along the way or anything like that. I had to learn everything myself. So yeah, that's how I would describe my college journey, like a roller coaster ride.
Okay, so let me kind of just dig a little more into that. You're a first generation student, meaning that nobody from your family, mom and dad, brothers, siblings, uncles, or whatever,
No.
have ever gone to college, right? So I'm assuming that you went from high school directly into Rutgers, which is a 4-year university, correct?
Yes.
And you wanted to go into a veterinarian, from what I understood, career, correct? At what point, when you transitioned from high school to the university, how did you find out about engineering, and how was that transition? And this is important because you touched on a very interesting point where a lot of students at the high school level are told, go ahead and select your career at this point. But for first generations, you really don't have any role models or any individuals at home that can kind of give you that guidance of, hey, if you really are interested in mathematics, science, go ahead and pursue engineering, or give you some sort of a window into what possibilities there are. So you selected what you thought at your young age of 17, 18 was the best fit for you. But then you discovered engineering. So I want to know how that happened and how that transition was able to be done at Rutgers.
Okay. So, like I said, I was always passionate about animals. And, in high school, you want to pick a career before you enter college that aligns with your passions and what you like. So that's something that I thought I would like. And initially I did. When I got to school, I did like my animal science class. I think that was like the most interesting class I've had at that school. But then I was starting to take the harder courses like biology and chemistry. And then I had to start thinking about vet school, which it comes after college. And it was a lot of pressure on me. I didn't know how I was going to keep a perfect GPA to get into vet school, because I actually learned it's harder to get into vet school than medical school. So it was very, very like intimidating for me. So I kind of was looking for alternatives, something along the path of a STEM major, because I did like STEM. I wanted to stay with STEM. And at my school, there was a seminar that I went to, and there were a few other engineering students there. And before that, I didn't even know anything about engineering. I didn't know how big engineering was. So I started asking them questions, started, finding out, what they did as engineers, because a lot of people don't really know what engineers do. So I was like that. I didn't know what engineering was, and I asked them, and I found out more about it. I looked into different programs, and I just decided to do it. I didn't really know what I was getting into until I started taking civil engineering classes junior, senior year. But I was very lucky to like it and to still be passionate about it.
Okay, so you started taking a couple courses,
Mhm.
and right now you're not at Rutgers anymore. You're at another university. How did that happen, and why did you transition into a new university?
So that was sophomore year that I transferred into NGIT, which is the New Jersey Institute of Technology.
Okay.
And I wanted to stay at Rutgers, but I was in the science school, not the engineering school. So if I wanted to transfer to the engineering school, I would have to retake pretty much every class, because they're not the same. They're kind of different. Like my calculus class that I took wasn't the same as the engineering calculus class. So I would have to retake everything, and I didn't want to do that. So I looked into NGIT because it's known for being a great engineering school, and it was also closer to home. So I decided to transfer, and I got in. And honestly, I'm so happy that I did. I love Rutgers. It was a huge school, and I think that's kind of something that overwhelmed me at the time because it was so big. And NJT was like smaller, so I think it was definitely a better fit for me, especially as a first generation student, someone that is looking for a lot of help and resources. It was definitely a better choice for me.
Okay, awesome, great. And this is a key point for the audience, for the young students, professionals that are listening. When you go in from high school or even community college into a four-year university, a lot of universities don't allow you to go undeclared anymore because engineering is so impacted. And as Melissa mentioned, it's really hard to transfer within the same college because some classes are not transferable for different majors. So it's up to you whether you want to wait for another year to retake a couple classes and invest a little more money in that same school, or find a solution, as Melissa did in this case, where she opted to go to a different school that accepted the courses that she had already taken and gave her credit towards the engineering degree that she's pursuing. So just keep that in mind when you're making a decision on what college. Also,
Yeah, for
there's a
sure.
lot of students that are in high school and community college that look at the more renowned colleges, Ivy League schools, and they go just by the name and the brand essentially of the
Yeah.
colleges, but they don't really look into other possibilities. And you mentioned the New Jersey Institute of Technology, which is a smaller college. There's a smaller ratio for teacher student, and that allows more of a conversation, easier access to the professor and to the labs, and possibly getting accepted or getting a spot in the classes. So it might work in the benefit to you.
Yes.
Every college has a benefit because you as a student make the most of what you can achieve within any educational institution. So just consider that for your, your selection of the college. So that's just a little piece of advice for there. So when you went into the engineering, you mentioned the calculus, you mentioned physics, and you mentioned the STEM courses. Going
Mhm.
from high school into Rutgers, can you tell me if it was the same as in high school, or was there like a rude awakening where like, oh my God, this is a little different. I thought I was doing really well in high school. I thought I was, I was getting straight A's or B's or something like that. All of a sudden you're encountered in this environment where you have to definitely fight and study a little bit different. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, it was definitely a rude awakening. I was always a straight A, straight B student, always got honor roll in high school. And I even graduated in the top 30 in high school, and that was something that I was very proud of. And I thought that my transition to college would be smooth, same as high school, but it was not. It was definitely more harder. Since you learn everything in one semester, everything is crunched down, and you're kind of on your own as well. So if you aren't used to having great time management skills and organization skills, it definitely hits you hard because you have to learn how to adapt to that and how to manage your schedule to make sure you get everything in. Because like I said, there's nobody pushing you every day. You take these classes maybe once, twice a week, and pretty much the rest of the week it's up to you to put in the work to do it. So definitely a lot of information in a shorter amount of time, and it's just the material is just harder. So it definitely was a big and hard transition for me.
Okay. Well, during that time, I know that you are part of an organization, SHIP, Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. How did you find out about that organization, and what has it actually done for you?
So my first week at NGIT, they were every to join and to just to come to the welcoming meeting. So I actually had a friend from high school that was interested in going as well. So we both went because it was a little scary to go on my own. So we both went together, and we just, heard everybody's story, everybody on the committee and the different committees and SHEP. And we were inspired because they were, Latinos, and um, they were still like, they were not all of them were seniors. Some of them were sophomores, even freshmen, um, that were very involved. And I wanted to be like that.
Okay.
So, and it was kind of hard to go to all the meetings because I always pretty much worked full time as a student, as a full time student. But every meeting that I went was so helpful. They really care about developing your professionalism in engineering as an engineering student. And I think that's so important because in class, you're just learning how to be a good student, how to learn how to do calculations and all of that, but they don't really teach you how to be a professional in the engineering world. So Shep definitely helped me out with that. And honestly, their meetings actually helped me land an internship.
Okay, let's talk about that because you mentioned you were working and it was a little difficult. What type of job were you doing before you actually joined the ship? Was it retail? What was it?
I was, up until a year ago, I was a business development consultant at a car dealership. So I was basically handling the online sales. So I guess you could say it was a sales job. And I had that job pretty much my whole college career up until last year, like I said.
It was not
And
engineering related. Okay.
no, it was not. No.
Okay. All right. And then now you're talking about the soft skills and the professional development concept that SHIP, the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, is bringing over. So
Mhm.
what is an internship for those that don't know what an internship is?
It's a job. It could either be part-time, maybe full-time if you allow it with your school schedule. And it gives you hands-on experience in the industry that you're looking to get into. So for me, I'm a civil engineer, so the internships that I was looking for were civil engineering internships. So once you get an internship, you kind of get experience in the field that you want to be in. And it's very important. I always say this because before you get into the real world after you graduate college, it helps you see what you like and what you don't like in your field.
Okay, great. And you mentioned that you were able to obtain an internship via SHIP.
Yeah.
How did that happen? Can you kind of walk us through?
Yeah. So, like I said, I didn't have any idea what it really took to be a professional in the engineering world up until I attended those meetings. So, they helped me, retune and refine my resume. They told me what an elevator pitch was. I had no idea what that was up until any meetings. Um, they told me, what they're looking for, what recruiters are looking for, what kind of opportunities were out there, like the conferences. I didn't get to attend the conference, but just them explaining what a conference is kind of gives you a good idea of how career fairs go and how, people want to talk and how you have to make connections. So all of that information um, taught me how to be a professional and how to look for opportunities with companies.
Okay, when you actually, how many tries did you have to do before you actually landed an internship?
So I went to the career fair.
And this is at your school, correct?
Yeah, the career
Okay.
fair in my school last spring. And I spoke with different people and I applied to a bunch of companies. And I only got a response from one. And obviously, it's because I had no experience up until then. Just the only things that were on my resume were pretty much the clubs I was involved with like SHOP and AACE. So up until then, I didn't have any experience. So I only got a response from one, and luckily, I landed that one internship
Okay.
interview.
Okay. When you got that call for an interview, how
Mhm.
did you feel?
Oh, I was so excited.
Okay. All right.
I couldn't believe it because honestly, I really doubted myself up until that point. I didn't even think I was gonna get anything like throughout school. I thought maybe I would get something after I
Okay.
graduated. So I was ecstatic.
Now that let's go back to that point where you actually get the call, you're excited,
Mhm.
all of a sudden this emotion floods in, you're like, oh my God, they called me and I'm really happy. All of a sudden the realization of I have to go through an interview. How do you prepare for that? How do
Oh,
you cope
goodness.
for it? Since you don't have any real role models to bounce it off at home, and it's something strange that we're not used to. How did you cope with
Yeah. So, like I said, the meetings that I went to, they talk about what recruiters ask you and all of that. So I kind of got an idea. I watched a lot of videos. I practiced a lot. And once I got there, I felt really nervous. But then once, I started speaking with everybody because I was interviewed by 5, 6 people.
it? Okay.
And since the conversation
Was
kept
that
flowing,
interview with the 5 or 6 people all in one room at once, or was it
yes,
one by one? Okay, they were all in one room.
all in the
It's a
same
panel
room.
interview.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So I wasn't expecting that, but it wasn't too bad.
Okay, all right, great. Okay, so off of that, how long did the interview last?
30 minutes.
30 minutes. Okay, in those 30 minutes, what was the one question that stumped you?
Hmm. So they asked me actually a question about one of the little projects that we were working on in ASCE. And we just started that project. It was a sustainable doghouse project, and we just started it. And they asked me what the final product was going to look like. And I was stumped because I didn't know what the final product was going to look like. I didn't know exactly how everything was going to work out.
Mm.
So I just kind of told them straight up, I don't know, we're in the beginning stages, but this is what we've done so far. This is the research that we did so far. And
Mm.
that question made me kind of nervous, but that was my answer, and it was
But
the truth.
you responded in an honest manner, and I think that's what they were really looking for,
Mm-hmm.
because as engineers, we know that we go through various iterations of a product. You have the conceptual idea, you have the conceptual design, but then as you go along, you find little intricacies and things that might not work, and you revise that idea, and the outcome or the final product that goes into the production line definitely looks a lot different than what you started at the very beginning of the project. So that's incredible. So you've been with Dynamic Engineering Consultants PC for about a year and a half, more or less, correct?
Yeah.
How have you actually coped with being a female in a male-dominated construction type of setting?
So I am the only woman in my office, and there's about, I believe, 6 or 7 of us, and I've I've been the only woman since the beginning. So I guess now I'm definitely used to it, but at first I was a little bit nervous because there was nobody that I could really relate to, I guess you could say. And at first I was nervous, but then after, you get to meet everybody and you realize, everybody's here for the same reason. Everybody's here to work together. So I got used to it eventually. But I will say that I still think about that from time to time, being the only woman there. And I kind of use that as empowerment within myself to, tell myself I really did it. I'm here. I deserve to be here. And yeah.
Okay, so in a male-dominated office, for you right now,
Mm-hmm.
there's probably guys normally dress just shirt, jeans, or whatever, slacks, so they don't really think about it too much.
Yeah.
How and I don't want to sound despective, but how different is your dress code versus the guy's dress code?
So everybody has a very casual dress code style. And I think I actually kind of adapted to that.
Okay.
Just because I just got used to it. I used to, in my old job, at the car dealership job, we had to dress really professionally and very, girly. And that's what that's what was something that was expected from us, because, people are coming in like customers and they expect you to look like, very put together. So now that everybody has a casual dress code, I kind of got used to it and I don't really mind it. But at first I did have to, I still wasn't used to not just dress so casually at work, especially at the most professional environment that I've ever been in. But I got used to it.
What's the most useful tool or subject that you learn in school that you're actually applying at your job at this point?
I would say water resources class and urban planning.
Okay, water resources and urban planning. That's something that you benefit most from. And now you have more of an understanding how those theoretical courses apply in the real life and project to project, and that's incredible. That's amazing, because now you have more of a appreciation for what you're actually learning versus a
Yeah.
person that doesn't have work experience, that is going through that course and never really applied it, and they kind of forget about it. So that's incredible. What would you say to a person young lady or young man who's just barely trying to get out the door, looking for an internship that would definitely help them to obtain a position? What's that one advice that you would share with them?
I would say definitely stand out. I know when you first get an internship, you have no experience. And I don't think that should intimidate you or make you feel like you don't have a chance at landing an internship, because that's how I felt. But as long as you're doing something to make you stand out, joining a club, putting yourself out there, starting a blog, where you get to meet other people and give advice and all of that. I think as long as you're doing something, you will be good. You will find something.
So, how do you actually stand out as Melissa Guevara?
Now or before?
Well, now and when you were starting.
So when I was starting, I would stand out, I guess, by the clubs that I joined, because I did try to join a lot of different committees within my clubs. So I guess that's one way, I guess you could say I showed that I was motivated and I definitely wanted to be involved. And now I guess I would stand out, because I definitely like to help. And I think that, using a blog or using social media to try to empower other people and try to, help out other people like you can just by sharing my story, I think that's great. And I think that if it helps anybody, that's awesome.
Okay, that's great advice. Thank you. And that's wonderful that you're doing this. I also heard you say in another interview that one day you would like to have your own construction firm. How did that dream come up, or how did you start setting that goal?
So not that long ago, actually, now that I work for a private and smaller consulting firm, I see how there's a lot of elements that go into making a firm run smoothly. And I feel like as if you can figure out those elements and you can really get a lot of experience and put yourself out there, I think you can learn how to put it all together and make something of your own. So I definitely feel inspired by my company, because I see how they started off small and just blew up into something that I'm proud to be a part of. And I think that it's possible that I can do it, with the right team, with the right people. I think it could happen.
That's incredible. Yes. And you have to dream high in order for you to succeed and achieve what you want. But it does take a lot of hard work, and nothing's really given. You have to earn it. You have to fight for it. And you're proving that you can definitely go ahead and achieve it. So what's been the most surprising aspect of pursuing an engineering career that you've found so far?
I would say how big it is, because engineering itself it's huge, and even like civil engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, they're huge within themselves as well. So I didn't know how big it actually was until I started getting internship experience. So that's definitely something that surprised me, even now, I would say.
Okay, yeah, how big engineering, different branches and disciplines of engineering, even within mechanical, you can definitely be doing heavy turbo machinery equipment, and you could definitely jump into the
Mhm.
aeronautical divisions, or you could go into vessel building, or you could go into antenna building. So that's just within mechanical, and I'm pretty sure with the civil, you can do a whole bunch of other things. You could do small construction company, you could go into bridge building, you can go into the municipal county divisions offices to approve plans, review plans,
Yep.
land surveying, whatever. So that in itself has a lot of different things that you can do. So one piece of advice that I would say for those individuals that are looking to go into any engineering discipline: be flexible. Always be flexible and
Mhm.
nimble so that you can adapt. That's one of the things that will make you successful in carrying you forth a lot further. So what is next for Melissa Guevara? You are right now an assistant engineer at a construction firm. You have surmounted many obstacles at this point. You have been able to transform and function in a very difficult situation during this pandemic. You are successful. What is the next step for you at this point?
Graduation in
Okay.
December.
Graduation in December. Okay.
Yes,
All right. Awesome. Awesome.
finally.
Has your current company extended an offer, or you can't talk about that right now?
It hasn't been officially said, but I definitely feel like that's the next step
Okay.
for me. I feel like once I graduate in December, I feel like that's just something that I fall into, and that's something that I want to do. I do want to be full time. I do want to stay with my company for a few more years, and gain a lot of experience in the land development
Okay,
field.
okay, great. And this is a little piece of advice from me to you and to the audience. We tend to be a little quiet and shy when it comes to asking for things because normally culturally we are told no pidas, no pidas, just let it come to you.
Mhm.
So I would say that you should start that conversation with your supervisor. Ask them, hey, I'm about to graduate and
Mhm.
it's about that time. What are the possibilities and what are the opportunities that you see for me continuing in this position or obtaining a full-time job? And
Mhm.
just open that conversation, showing interest, letting
Yeah.
them know that you're thinking about that next step, so that they don't say, well, she's not really saying anything. And that goes for you,
Mhm.
Melissa, and that goes for anybody that's listening and that is in the same typical boat, that maybe they're hoping that it happens, but they haven't really asked. Si no hablas, no se sabe. If you don't
Yeah,
ask, you'll never
that's
know.
true.
Okay.
Mhm.
So this next little section of the interview is, I call it fast round, and it's a couple questions. Good leaders always create good leaders. Do you have any individuals you actually look up to, and who are your mentors?
I would say some of my friends that I've met online would be people that I look up to, because they are a little bit older. They already have experience in the field, and I can tell they're very passionate about what they do. So they're definitely people that I look up to. And my mentor, I would say, would be my supervisor, because he definitely exposes me to different projects, different tasks. And I think that's so important to be put out there and learn.
Right. Having somebody that believes in you and sees the potential that you probably
Mhm.
don't see in yourself, that is amazing. It makes you feel more empowered and makes you hungry to go forward. And it makes you believe in who you are and what you're trying to do. That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that with me. A shout out to your supervisor for
Yes.
being a mentor for you. Yes. Awesome. Awesome. What do you believe your superpower to be? If you can't think of one right now that you might have, select any superpower from any superhero and why.
What superpower would want, or what superpower I have?
What superpower do you think you have, or would you want to represent who you are?
I would say to read minds,
Okay.
because I always wonder, how, like, when I don't know what to do in a project or with the task, I always wonder, how would so and so do this? How would this person handle, or you know go about doing this? And sometimes I wish I knew the answers, but of course I don't know. Of course I'm still learning. So
Okay. The power of reading minds and knowing what other people with more experience would do.
hmm
It comes with experience.
oh
That's
yeah, I always
hindsight.
say
Everything's
that.
2020. So just be patient and
hmm
look at what other people tendencies are and how they normally attack something, because you'll definitely learn by watching other individuals. So just keep track of what they normally would do and how they would definitely tackle a problem. Any particular book, movie, or podcast that you believe has made an impact in your life and you wish more people would actually take advantage of it?
Ooh, Oh, okay. So I actually, not that long ago, I watched The Social Dilemma.
Okay.
And it's actually funny because they talk about the impacts of social media on you and your well being and your mental health. And, I'm here on Instagram, trying to promote engineering and STEM, and I'm using that as a tool. But I think it was important for me to see that because you can't get caught up in the social media life and all of that. You actually do have to learn how to be present in the moment and enjoy life as it comes and take a break from everything if you have to. I think it's so important to remind yourself to do that whenever you can.
That is so true. And it does happen to all of us, to everybody. There's, you're trying to catch up and you're watching somebody else do a post and you're like, oh, I gotta be present and do a post. But
Uh-huh.
if you have a family, for myself, I have a wife and two kids, and I have to be present for them. I have to allow time for family life. I have to get home and eat dinner with the kids and my wife and be able to, play together, go to the park, or do certain things. And sometimes you have to put priority on different things. And as a young student yourself, you're still going to school, you still have to go to work. So there's that comes into play. So you have to make sure, okay, what are my priorities? Maybe I won't be posting today. Maybe whatever post I had scheduled for this week, I have to push it out to next week because this week I have to focus on a final exam, whatever it is. So just do you and focus on what you need to do for you, because ultimately you're the one, and we are the ones that suffer the consequences of our election and choices. So that is a good
Exactly.
piece of advice, and that's great. So watch The Social Dilemma, and it'll definitely clear things up. That's amazing.
Yes, yes.
We all have a definition of success, and it varies. So right now I want to know what your definition of success is at this very point for Melissa Guevara.
I would say success is reaching your personal goals, your personal dreams that you have, no matter how big, how small you might see it. Achieving that, really believing in yourself, and staying humble all at the same time. I think that's really what success is, because you want to enjoy it. You want to make sure it's something that makes you happy, whatever you want to succeed in. And yeah, I think that would be a definition for me.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. Yes. And that is amazing. Thank you. And this question I really love and enjoy asking every single guest. In this question, I want you to go back. Imagine that you can go back to that 18, 19-year-old girl that is just about to enter Rutgers. And you're at the point where you're debating of whether you want to go into the veterinary school or transition over into the engineering discipline that you are now doing. You have a lot of doubts at that point. You have a lot of unknowns. I want you to go back to that young lady and share with her, if you only have about 2 to 3 minutes, share two or three pieces of advice that would definitely make you successful.
Whew, I would say don't be scared. Try your best always. Even if you think you're failing, keep trying, keep going, don't give up. And I would say go to community college first so you can figure out what you actually want to do before you waste time, money, um, you know, and a lot of tears, honestly. So yeah, definitely community college would be the biggest thing on that list. And don't doubt yourself, I would say also, because it's not easy. Of course, it's not easy for a lot of people. So just keep going. Just keep going.
Don't doubt yourself and keep going. Those are the takeaways that I will keep, because it is true. It is
Mhm.
very difficult. It is very hard. There are long nights, and you only know what you go through when you're going through college. It's very difficult. Your family probably does not know how difficult it is. They don't understand why you have to stay up until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning studying for a final, and it gets a little hard. So yes, definitely,
That's
those
hard.
are good pieces of advice. Thank you so much, Melissa. I want to acknowledge you for this interview that you did with me. I want to acknowledge you for the courage that you had to go ahead and transition from being a veterinarian over into civil engineering, from transferring from Rutgers University over to the New Jersey Institute of Technology that you're presently at. I want to acknowledge you for actually achieving and obtaining an internship with the construction company firm that you are now. And I want to acknowledge you for the job that you're doing as a civil engineer, blogging about it so other individuals can follow suit and learn from what you're experiencing with that. With that being said, thank you so much for being here with me tonight. To the audience, I want to say thank you so much for following Success Innovation, sticking through for another wonderful episode. Thank you so much. This has been Lazo Herrera. Have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you for finishing another fantastic episode with Success Innovation. It was such a great conversation with Melissa Guevara. She shared so much fantastic information and insight as to what it is to be a student in college. We discovered the pivot she had from wanting to be a veterinarian to ultimately pursuing civil engineering. This change was not easy, but it was a rewarding one for her. In a nutshell, don't be afraid to change your mind. Thank you, Melissa Guevara, for your time and conversation with me. This has been Lázaro Herrera for Success Innovation. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.